I used to think debt was a trap until I saw billionaires borrow millions and pay almost zero in taxes. That's when everything changed for me. They are playing a totally different game. They use debt to buy appreciating assets, fund businesses, and even live tax-free, all while their net worth keeps growing. That's the kind of strategy no one teaches you in school. In this video, I'll show you 8 powerful ways the rich turn debt into a wealth-building machine. So stick with me until the end, because the last strategy reveals how wealthy individuals protect their most valuable assets by borrowing against them. Let's dive in. Good debt and bad debt. Let's start by understanding the difference between good debt and bad debt. There are 2 ways to distinguish between a good debt and a bad debt. The first way is to determine if this debt is used to purchase an appreciating asset or a depreciating asset. For example, a mortgage loan is considered a good debt because it helps you acquire an appreciating asset. However, a car loan is seen as a bad debt because a car is a depreciating asset. The second way is to determine if it is used to acquire income-producing assets. For example, if you take out a loan to buy a business, it is considered good debt because a business generates steady cash flow. A bad debt includes any personal loan for unnecessary expenses, such as luxury items or vacations. If you find this video helpful, hit the like button and consider subscribing to this channel. Real estate leverage. Rich people often borrow money to buy real estate even if they can't afford to pay cash without a mortgage. This is called leverage, which allows you to control a large asset with less money by using debt to boost the return on the asset. Controlling a large asset comes with several types of returns, like rental income, property appreciation, and tax benefits. However, to keep it simple, let's focus on appreciation, which is simply the change in the fair market value of the property over 1 year. Let's say you want to buy a property worth $1 million. You have 2 options. First, pay for it all in cash. Second, put down 20% and finance the rest with a mortgage. Let's assume that after a few years, the property's value increases by 20%. Before looking at the numbers and to make math easier, let's ignore the change in equity during these years and other costs like closing costs. Now let's analyze option 1, which is quite straightforward. The property is currently valued at $1.2 million, and this is a $200,000 increase in its market value. The return on investment is profit divided by initial investment, which means the return on investment is 20%. On the other hand, when you use a mortgage, you pay $200,000 down payment and see your property value grow by $200,000, giving you a wonderful 100% return on your investment. This shows the amazing power of leverage, which helps you in this example to get 5 times the return on your investment compared to not using leverage. Keep in mind that leverage can sometimes work against you. If the price of this home drops by 20%, you could end up losing your investment, and this loss is only on paper. If you sell this home after the price drops, you will actually lose 100% of your initial investment. If you didn't see the power of leverage in this example, let's look at an even more extreme situation. Imagine paying $50,000 upfront instead of paying $200,000 down and get a loan of $150,000. In this scenario, your profit stays at $200,000, but your initial investment is just $50,000. That's a fantastic 400% return on your investment. Rich individuals know how to use leverage smartly because it can help accelerate their wealth. They are also careful to avoid over leverage, which could potentially wipe them out. Tax deductions. There are 2 main types of tax deductions in real estate. First, mortgage payments are often tax deductible, so you can deduct the interest on your mortgage when filing your taxes. This is especially beneficial in the early years of the loan, when most of the monthly payment goes toward interest. Second, even though the property may be increasing in value, the IRS allows you to deduct the cost of residential rental property, excluding land, at 3.636% per year over 27.5 years, which the IRS defines as the property's useful life. Wealthy investors combine both deductions, mortgage interest and depreciation, to lower their tax bill. Low interest borrowing to invest in high return assets. Wealthy individuals often borrow at low interest rates, and this cheap capital can be used to generate a higher return. This is called interest rate arbitrage because the difference between borrowing cost and investment return generates passive profit. Here's a quick example. When someone borrows at 4% and invests in something that yields 10%, he earns a 6% profit completely passively. There is also a global version of interest rate arbitrage that large hedge funds and wealthy individuals use. This strategy involves borrowing money in a country with a low interest rate and then investing that money in a country with a higher interest rate. By the way, want more money tips? Join my free weekly newsletter, link below. Using business debt to scale fast. There are two main ways to get capital to grow a business. First, you can raise money from investors and give up equity, or you can take out a loan and keep 100% of future profits. Don't get me wrong, both options are fine, and wealthy individuals know when to use each one to boost their returns. Here's a quick example. If a business has a 25% return on every dollar invested, it's a good opportunity to borrow at 7% to grow the business. Once the model works, they repeat the process, taking out more loans to grow, then using profits to pay off their debt. Debt to maintain lifestyle while staying fully invested. Wealthy individuals often choose not to sell their assets for a couple of good reasons. First, selling assets means you would need to pay capital income tax. Second, if they sell their assets, they lose the potential long-term benefits of holding these assets. Let's look at the numbers. The average historical return of the S&P 500 is around 10%. So wealthy individuals often use their stocks as collateral and borrow from banks at low interest rate without needing to sell their stocks. By the way, banks offer lower interest rates and flexible repayment option to wealthy individuals, which also helps to increase their returns. So by borrowing against their assets, they not only avoid paying capital gains tax, but also hold their highly appreciating assets with higher return. Buying businesses with seller financing. This is by far the most creative way to increase your return without using any of your assets as collateral while also lowering the risk. This is strategy called seller financing basically means buying a business by paying a portion and asking the seller to finance the remaining amount. You then pay off this debt using future profit. Wealthy individuals often combine both bank loans and seller financing, paying a small amount out of pocket and use the business itself as collateral. This is an effective method to reduce risk and is often used if the business has steady, predictable cash flow. So if you have already watched this video so far, I'd love to hear from you. If you had access to low interest money, would you use it to invest or play it safe? Drop it in the comments, and while you are there, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Access to exclusive opportunities with leverage. There are several high-yield, time-sensitive opportunities require a minimum amount of cash, such as private equity and pre-IPO shares. Wealthy individuals use leverage to access these deals quickly without selling any of their assets. To give you an idea, the minimum investment in private equity funds is typically $25 million, although it sometimes can be as low as $250,000. Debt as a defensive asset protection strategy. This is by far the most overlooked strategy some wealthy individuals use to protect their valuable assets from potential lawsuits or creditors. They often place real estate or businesses inside LLCs and then secure a loan against those assets. This tactic is similar to how a porcupine races its quills to make itself more difficult to attack. In the same way, some wealthy individuals use leverage to lower their equity, making their assets less attractive targets because creditors are less likely to go after assets with minimal net value. In summary, leverage can be an effective tool to boost your returns on every dollar you invest, as long as you use it wisely. However, keep in mind that during tough market conditions, it can also ruin your investment. That's why wealthy individuals avoid over leverage, and they also reduce leverage risk by diversifying their investment portfolio across many assets and businesses. If you like this video, you'll enjoy this one right here, which is one of my most popular videos: why everything changes after $10,000. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.